You are listening to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks.
Where are you, Auburn fans? Welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and I'm also here with Jared Davis. It's Georgia State week. Are we going to hate on Georgia State? I feel like we should. I mean, we got some aggression after losing to Penn State. Why not take it out on Georgia State? It's our homecoming week, too. We're playing them at 3 p.m. in Jordan-Hare, and I think some players are going to want to come out and play hard. I hope we just don't overlook Georgia State this week. But anyway, Jared, how are you doing after some time away from the Penn State game and now looking forward to the Georgia State game?
I'm doing okay. I kind of hate games like this, if I'm being honest. It's good for the team, but after you lose a big game, you want to like another big game to say, hey, can we rebound? Like, let's get to it quick. Can we win another big one to get me feeling better? Because really, honestly, if we beat Georgia State, like, I'm not going to feel any better. But it will give the team a chance to work on things that were an issue at Penn State. So it's probably a good thing for the team.
Yeah, I absolutely get that. Like, I want to come back and next week be the LSU game.
Right, because if you win, you're like, okay, well, I've totally forgotten about Penn State now. See, at this point, we got to deal with that Penn State loss for 2 weeks. Because if we don't beat Georgia State, then we got bigger issues. But if we beat them, you're like, well, it was Georgia State, so I'm still dealing with the Penn State issue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm kind of in the same mentality right now, and I hope, and I think we will win at against Georgia State, but it will kind of prolong our just. All right, we're gonna have our next game after Georgia State is LSU, and it's another hostile environment. We're gonna have to go into Baton Rouge and play well there, and so we're gonna have to wait to see that improvement against some good competition. Because right now with Georgia State, the line's 25 points. Which, shout out to you, Jared. You had predicted preseason that we'd win by 25 points. So are you Las Vegas or whatever? Not Las Vegas. Yeah. Are you predicting everything now?
Yes. If you're asking, did I create Las Vegas and the whole booking system? Yes, I did. This is just a volunteer side thing I do, the podcast. But on my day job is I am actually I set the lines for all sporting events.
I figured as much. But yeah, we are predicted to win. I think this is about as much of a tune-up game as we could get after a tough Penn State loss. What are some particular things that you're going to be looking for in this game for us to really improve on and to take us to the next level that I think we're going to need when we go into SEC play?
I really don't know. I think, if we go out there and produce offensively, I don't think it's going to be much different than the first 2 weeks. So I guess the thing that I could take away from it is the only positive, every team we've played has had a 70+% completion percentage. So if we get that down more in the 60 range, I guess that would be one thing where you could say, hey, maybe we have fixed something, because even the bad teams were completing passes against us.
Yeah, I absolutely think that. I think that's a good spot to start. And I definitely want to see our wide receivers kind of go back to what we did game one. I think if we go back to that, where Bo Nix is completing a lot of passes, we're doing what we should in the receiving game. I think we have a really good shot at just laying the pedal to the metal against Georgia State. I think we could easily beat Georgia State by more than 25 points, if I'm being honest. I think we can beat them by a lot.
If Shivers is back, do you think this pretty quickly becomes a Hunter Shivers carrying the load, even relatively early on? Because Hunter can both those are very capable guys. Essentially, we don't want to get Tank hurt.
That's true. Yeah.
And we have very capable, not even just like, come in and trash time. These guys are very capable of carrying the load. So I wonder how quick that becomes the Hunter Shiver show.
No, I mean, that's a good point. I still think Tank will start, but it wouldn't shock me after 6 to 8 carries for Tank that we're just like, all right, cool. Just keep your legs warm for this week, and then we don't want you to get injured before we go to LSU. I think that could be the case. And Shivers is going to be, if he comes back this week, then he's going to have some, he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, we need to get his rust off. He's only played one game, so yeah, I think it'd
Right.
be great to get him a lot of touches too. Just was thinking that through literally as I was talking. So we need a game, but I don't think either one of those guys. I don't think we're not trying to win, even if you just use those guys. Those are very capable running backs.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Jared, let's jump into our players to watch for Auburn. We've got some guys that I feel like improved some on offense, defense, and special teams. But holistically, I feel like, especially in offense and defense, there's a lot of improvement that needs to happen. Who's your player to watch on offense for Auburn?
I think it's going to be John Samuel Shanker. I think I want to see them expand his role a little more to stretch the defense a little more. And I don't know if they'll show that in this game, but I don't know that there'll be I don't think I can take a lot away because, I mean, Robertson had 3 touchdowns against Alabama State and then not much against Penn State. So, like, I don't know if them having a big game receivers is going to mean much, but schematically, if we start seeing them kind of using Shanker a little more to even stretch it down the field instead of just the
Yeah.
3-yard passes. I think that'd be huge to see that.
Yeah, expand his game a little bit more to those 20-yard passes. That could be really big. I think that would be a good thing to add to his repertoire. I'm actually going to be watching Kobe Hudson because I saw a breakout game for him against Penn State, and I think he has the potential to continue to be one of the key guys that we go to. And you have Demetrius Robertson, but you also have Kobe Hudson. If you've got a couple top level wide receivers, and I haven't even mentioned Shedrick Jackson too, like 3 guys out there that at any moment could be the big 50, 70-yard catch. That's hard to guard. You can't key off on that one person. So I think Kobe Hudson is going to be the guy I'm going to be watching. If he does well and continues to take those strides, I mean, sky's the limit for the kid.
I agree.
On defense, who are you going to be watching, Jared, for Auburn?
I think probably Owen Papo for 2 reasons. Number one, is he healthy? Does he even play? And number 2, I feel like he missed a few assignments on tight ends based off of what the announcers were saying. So I want to see how he rebounds from that. See if we can fix that a little bit. Super talented guy. And we're going to need him to step up because I just realized, Zacoby's out for the first half. So if he can't play, it's going to fall on Chandler, and I don't even know who our 4th linebacker is. So yeah, it's going to be Owen's going to have to play a big role if he's healthy.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, especially first half. I'd definitely be looking at Owen to see how he does. I think I'm going to be also watching. I'm going to go with the hot players because right now Chandler Wooten's the hot player right now. He led the team in tackles last week, and he is playing with some fire. I mean, he is making his last year in college a good one, and I want to see him continue to improve, continue those hot streaks, and maybe even get a sack or 2 this game. That would be awesome to see.
Yes, sir.
Who's your guy for special teams? Because there's a handful of guys that have been definitely doing well in special teams. But who are you going to be watching this week?
I think I'm going to watch Oscar. I hate to steal your man. I know you like Oscar. You like the punting game, but I want to see was the almost 50-yard average a fluke at Penn State, or is that his new thing? If that's his new thing, we're going to be flipping a lot of fields, and I think that could help us out a lot, on the defense.
Yeah, that's a good one because I think even during the Alabama State game, he had a bad punt. It was like 25 yards, something like that. Not great. So like, can he consistently get the 45, 50-yard punts and really do what we hope a punter can do is flip that field? If he can do that, man, we're going to have a big advantage on special teams. The guy I'm going to be watching is Demetrius Robertson because I think we're going to stop Georgia State a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of punts in this game. And I think Demetrius Robertson has the speed, the agility, the juking ability to get, make the first guy miss on a punt return, but also go the distance. I don't think he's as fast as Anthony Schwartz, but at times when he's running at top speed, it's like the dude looks exactly like him. and it's amazing. So I'm gonna be watching Demetrius Robertson. Jared, let's get into our score predictions for this game. What do you think this game's gonna look like for Auburn playing Georgia State after having a tough loss against Penn State?
I really don't know. I haven't. What did I say at the beginning of the year?
You said 25 points.
We win by 12. Yeah, that's right. You said I was on the money. I think it's probably more in the 40 range. I mean, Georgia State's made a bowl game before, maybe multiple. So this is not. I don't know who they are this year. Don't even know their record. That's sad. But
they're
I don't think
1-2.
Okay, still don't think it's the same caliber of Akron, Alabama State. So I think we more of 40. I think we get in the 40s, and then I don't know, subtract 25.
Yeah, so
that's
like
what Georgia State gets.
42-17 or something like that.
Yeah, although I don't really feel like they're going to get 17. So I'm torn on this one. But I do think we probably wind up in the 40-point range on offense.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's possible. I think the way the offense can move the ball, and I think the running game, and I think we'll probably rely a little bit more on the pass game too, just kind of develop that out during games like this. I think we'll kind of go back to that. I predicted preseason we'd win by 31 points. I think we can do that. I still think that's a reasonable amount, 31 points. So, if that's the case, we score, say, 45 points, we beat, I think we can beat Georgia State. I think that's a pretty reasonable score. And I think that would be I don't think it's going to make me feel any better, like you said, about the Penn State loss. But, hey, maybe we shore up some things that we've been working on. So definitely looking forward to seeing how we kind of move on from the Penn State game and make the adjustments.
For sure.
All right, Jared, last segment of the day. This is an Auburn fan's perspective of the SEC. Very fun segment where we put on our orange-blue glasses, see what we see around the SEC, because a lot of things happen every week. There were a lot of slower, still kind of boring games in week 3 of college football, like Texas A&M beating New Mexico State, Missouri beating Southeast Missouri State, Tennessee beat Tennessee Tech, Arkansas beat Georgia Southern, and the list goes on. Like, it's just, there were like 6 games that were kind of like that. Okay, you beat a cupcake, and you can't really tell too much from that about the team. But there were some very good ones and tight games. And Jared, I wanted to start out with Alabama versus Florida game. So number 1 Alabama versus number 11 Florida. Alabama did squeak out the win, 31-29. I personally thought it was going to be a 20-point win for Bama, but boy, was I wrong. That game easily could have been Florida's if they had just made a couple extra plays. Jared, what's your thoughts on that game and kind of where Alabama and both Florida are at?
Well, if you didn't see the game, Alabama won 31-29, and Alabama scored 21 points in the first quarter. So that tells you a little bit about how the game went. I mean, they scored 21, and then Florida won the other 3 quarters. But when you dig yourself that big of a deficit, it's hard to come out of it. So I think Florida ran for close to 300 yards. I mean, here's the deal, honestly, and I'm not trying to be biased here, but honestly, if Florida could tackle better and took better angles, Alabama was winning basically by just dumping it out in the flat. And then their guy was juking the Florida defender, and it wound up being a touchdown. It was not the same Alabama last year where they had these crossing patterns that literally there's nothing you could do about it. If Florida took better angles on the defender, Florida wins that ball game.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean? Well, basically it means they're both good teams. I think Florida's probably a little better than people thought. And Alabama is beatable, which is all you really can hope for. They are beatable. I don't know who's going to beat them, but they are beatable, and that was absolutely proven in that game.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think early on I was thinking Wow, Alabama against Miami week 1, number 1 versus number 14. Alabama just they look dominant, and I think this is one of the first chinks in the armor that you see for Alabama, and I think there's going to be more teams that keep it close with Alabama. Now, will they win? I don't know. I don't think Alabama's schedule is set up that well. Maybe Ole Miss. Maybe Ole Miss does that because Ole Miss has Alabama's number, but I think Alabama is probably not going to lose even one game unless it's maybe against us. Maybe we shock the world. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I think Alabama's kind of setting themselves up to play well, even against tough teams like Florida.
Hey Auburn fans, I want to take a quick timeout from this episode to bring your attention to something very special. Here at the E2C Network, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best content for Auburn fans out there. And best of all, it's free to you. But just because it's free doesn't mean there aren't costs, especially when you have a library of hundreds of podcasts, videos, blogs, and more. Many of you have reached out and asked how you can support this network in the past. Well, now I have your answer. It's called the E2C Network Booster Club over at patreon.com/E2C Network. There you'll find a membership monthly reward system where you can sign up for as little as $1 and get different perks at different tiers. Some of those perks include things such as apparel, eligibility to join us on future podcasts, recognition as an E2C Network booster, exclusive communications, and bonus content that is available nowhere else. If you love this network and want to help us keep producing podcasts like this one, please head on over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can also get there by going to our website, e2cnetwork.com/support. Whether you decide to join or not, we are still so appreciative that you would support us by just listening and being here, because each and every one of you is part of our E2C Network family. Well, that's it. Timeout's over. Let's get back into the episode.
Another kind of interesting one that was, I'd kind of alluded to this in our last podcast, but Mississippi State versus Memphis. So this play kind of, it was close at the end, and this play at the end, you probably have seen it. It's pretty much a botched call from the SEC refs.
What?
But what they do that?
A botched call from the refs? Never.
But they there was this punt, and it looked like Mississippi State had downed it, and then all of a sudden one of the Memphis players grabs it and runs it back like 90 yards, and you're like, what the heck just happened? And apparently that play was a botched call. Even the SEC officiating crew said, yeah, we made a mistake. Golly. Oh man, you just can't help but laugh, especially since Auburn had some crazy plays called for and against them by SEC refs. Man, they're just a dumpster fire right now, the SEC officiating crew. Holy crap!
Do you think they just have a recording that says, yes, we made a mistake, and like they just hit that button? Like all the people are on vacation. Actually, they call in for a journalist call in for a response, and that button just gets played. Yes, we made a mistake.
That's about right. Or no comment. And
no comment.
When you hear no comment, you're like, yeah, you made a mistake.
Hey, we only bring in like $30 billion a year. Do you expect us to use that money to make the refs better? I mean, what are you thinking, people?
No, never.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. Another kind of interesting one that ended up happening was Georgia beating South Carolina, and that one, I think Georgia. I honestly, South Carolina's bad, like real bad. But I think the interesting part was JT Daniels. The previous game wasn't playing. This game came back. Apparently, it was like an oblique kind of injury. He looks so good, and so I think Georgia's going to be a tough one to beat this year. But JT Daniels, man, like in their defense, it's going to be a tough battle for anybody against Georgia this year. But I still think they are beatable. I don't think they're any better than Alabama. So I think Georgia's definitely a beatable team still. Let's also talk about kind of a non-SEC game, but I think this is still kind of relevant, especially in the playoff scheme. Clemson barely beat Georgia Tech, barely, like 14-8. Was that even like? I didn't even think that was possible that Georgia Tech might beat Clemson.
So Clemson won 14-8. Ohio State was up on, I think, Tulsa by 6 points late in the fourth. Now they ran away with it. Oklahoma had to hang on to beat Nebraska.
Those are all teams that have been perennial playoff teams and struggling. This is. Are we in a new era of playoffs potentially? I think Alabama's still out there, but is that even possible?
I mean, it's a weird year. I mean, right now, I would argue Arkansas and Ole Miss are ahead of LSU and Auburn in the West. And I mean, that's weird to say from just normal talent and tradition.
Yeah.
Right now, I would say that. I think right now the only two teams that, well, never mind. I mean, you could say Oregon too. They went and beat Ohio State, and Penn State has had two really good wins, so you could put them up there.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the only two that I feel like are probably ahead of everybody is Georgia and Alabama. Lucky us, because those are our two biggest rivals. But I mean, those are the only two teams that, now the Clemson win for Georgia is not looking as good as it did, because Clemson's not a good team right now.
That is true.
But we know Georgia's defense is nasty, and they may not put 40 up when they play, your Auburns and stuff, but they're going to be hard to beat because of the defense. But yeah, there's not a great teams out there right now, honestly.
I
expect weird year.
I expect at least a couple teams to kind of bubble up there, but so far 3 weeks into the season, there's still Alabama and Georgia, and then there's a lot of teams that are kind of just like right below them. And I think one or two of them are going to start bubbling up. Maybe it's the Penn States of the world, kind of jumping up in there.
At this current moment, I would say Penn State probably needs to be top 5. I don't know where they wound up, but they need to be top 5. They've beaten Wisconsin and they've beaten Auburn. I don't know that anybody else has a better resume right now. Not for 2 games. I would say Oregon has a better 1-game resume. I would have said Georgia, but Clemson's looking pretty bad. So
yeah,
I would say Oregon has the best 1-game win. Penn State probably has the best 2-game wins.
Yep.
And you look at UCLA, everybody thought they were back. They destroyed LSU. They lost to Fresno State. And I fully do not expect Oregon to go through their whole schedule unscathed, even though they beat Ohio State. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I coming out of a year where it was only conference play to this, it feels weird. But sometimes it's good. But the teams that I feel like you expect, say 2020 didn't happen, and you play a regular season last year. I mean, I don't think we have this year where we're kind of like looking at the top 25 teams, and you're like, there's not really that many dominant ones out there. Like I don't know. Like I feel like there's usually a couple that kind of get up there. So I don't know. That makes it a little weird. One other game that I wanted to mention was this one. I feel bad for Vandy. Kind of. Stanford beat them. I know Stanford can be a good team, but Vandy lost them one, and now Vandy's got 1 win, 2 losses. I mean, do you think Vandy can even get like 3 wins this season?
No.
Is that even in the cards?
No, because I don't know who they play from the West, but it's going to be 2 teams. And I'll be honest, Mississippi State is the only team they could even, in any universe, think they could beat. And so that's 2 from the West. And in the East, Kentucky's really good this year. Maybe they could hang with South Carolina. I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think Tennessee would beat them. Florida and Georgia will destroy them. No, I don't think they do, and I hate it. But I think this might be top to bottom outside of South Carolina, Vandy, and I'll hold judgment on Miss State. This may be the most top to bottom the SEC's been in a long time.
That is true. There's a lot of teams at the top, and then there's a lot of teams at the bottom, for sure. I don't know. That's not typical for the SEC.
Well, I mean, in
a lot of years.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Arkansas and Ole Miss are highly ranked and probably deserve it right now, like it's not a fluke. They're highly ranked. Florida's obviously back. Georgia's what they are. Tennessee, the verdict's still out. But in the West, there literally is no gimme game. There is no gimme game. Maybe Miss State, and that's it. So I just think it's a really It's going to be a tough ride for anybody, honestly, through the SEC. And Vandy just doesn't. I hate it, but if it's not a debate, they're probably not going to win it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only team Vandy could beat, and it's a non-SEC team, is UConn, who's 0-4 right now. And
they could beat them because they've already fired their coach.
yeah. So you got that. Now it's 2 wins, and then, like you said, maybe it's Mississippi State, but that would get you up to 3 wins, and like that's a tough year. I mean, I know you got a new coach, but like that's a tough year for anybody.
Let me ask you 2 non-SEC questions, and then I'll be done. First one is, Rhett Lashley was the hot topic last year. I mean, is he coaching for his job now? They're struggling.
I don't know, man. The games I've watched from them have not been great, and I feel like last year I was watching Rhett Lashley every other week, thinking, man, this guy's I think one of the things, is he under Gus, like when he was at Auburn, was he really doing a lot? And I think when he jumped out under Gus's wing and he kind of did his own thing, he started to, flourish a little bit. And I think this is one of the first years where he's not done as well. He's maybe even taken a step back with his coaching. So I'd hope not for his sake, because I like Rhett Lashley. But maybe it's possible.
Second question has zero to do with us, but very curious. Is Mike Norvell going to survive the season at Florida State? They're 0-3.
They're 0-3?
They're 0-3.
Oh, man.
With the Jacksonville State loss. Keep that in mind.
Whew. That's tough. I mean, how can you make it out of that season? And you got to win most of your games for the rest of the season.
They lost 35-14 to Wake Forest.
No, I don't. You give me those numbers, and I do not see a way for him making it out of the season. They're going to go to an interim coach. I'm going to give a prediction 8 weeks into the season, so 5 weeks from now. So I think they're going to fire him in 5 weeks.
Well, that might be good then, because they play UMass the week before the 5th week, and if they lose to UMass, you might be right.
Yeah, I can see that. That's rough. That's crazy how bad Florida State has just dropped off. I mean, again, like we talk about Texas being a hotbed, tons of talent from high school. Florida's that state too. There's a lot of good talent that is from Florida, and Florida State's struggling that much, even with the talent that's already in their state. Man, tough time for them.
I think we need to do a podcast one day, because everybody blindly, and I do too, follows these charts. But when you look at Texas and really the state of Florida for the past few years, other than Florida Gators and the struggles of California, I wonder if we do a deep dive into that. Like, are they off on those numbers? I mean, those states are loaded with talent, supposedly, and we always say that.
Yeah.
But maybe that needs to be a bigger look. Maybe I wish somebody could track those players. How did they really turn out? Because maybe we're overinflating those numbers. Because if the numbers are true, there's no reason Texas and Florida State should be bad for more than 1 year. Yeah, I'll give you a year every now and then.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I always love to do this. There's this person that has this website. It's called coacheshotseat.com. And so I like to go on it every once in a while. They update it usually on about a weekly basis during the football season. But guess where Mike Norvell at Florida State is? Where would he be on all of 120 or so head coaches? Where is he?
I'm assuming his face is on the website now.
Yes, it is. It is. But how high up?
I'm assuming he's number 1.
He's not number 1. That's Dino Babers at Syracuse. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Huh. Yeah. Okay.
But he is number 8. So Mike Norvell is number 8 on this hot list of coaches that might get fired.
That's got to be because he's only in his second year. They're probably thinking they'll give him 3 years. Otherwise, from production, you got to think, oh, man, he's got to be higher than that.
Yeah. No, I think so, too. I think that could be – that's tough, man. That's tough. All right, Jared, any other thoughts about Georgia State or anything else before you get out of here?
No, I will add that apparently, the temperature is supposed to be like 77, and it's going to be late afternoon, so it might actually feel like a fall football game. So, yeah, that's about the only other thing I could add.
Yeah, that'll be I know, what was it? When I went to the Alabama State game, we got hints of it, but it was still, like, when you're out in the sun, it was hot.
Yeah.
So maybe this will be the first game where you're thinking, this is a nice 70 degrees outside. I'm enjoying some football outside. This might be the first one.
Absolutely.
All right, Jared, how can people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under Jared Davis.
And you can find me on Twitter at AJAYJY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger. And War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.